Nietzsche's legacy in literature. Nietzsche ascended beyond philosopher to become an influential stylist in German literature. Celebrated for his vivid and succinct prose, he drew inspiration from French writers like La Rochefoucauld and Voltaire. His work, especially Also sprach Zarathustra, showcases a style that's rhythmic and memorable, setting a new standard in prose. His imagery and metaphorical richness captivated readers, overshadowing his philosophical assertions. While his philosophical ideas often face dismissal, his literary success remains unquestioned, marking him as a revolutionary figure in shaping modern German literature and affirming his position as an unparalleled master of prose. A complex relationship with philosophy. Despite his influence, Nietzsche's philosophical contributions remain contentious. Critics commend his ability to dramatize intellectual conflicts without resolving them. His philosophy, influenced by Schopenhauer, revolves around themes of will and power. However, unlike his predecessors who sought order, Nietzsche embraced chaos and contradictions, often preferring intuition to logical consistency. His philosophical method lacked systematic coherence, making him more of a mystic oracle rather than a traditional philosopher. Consequently, his work is often categorized as lyrical or aphoristic philosophy, which prioritizes evocative engagement over rational discourse, stirring debates about his philosophical validity. Art as the answer to pessimism. Nietzsche proposed art, not morality or religion, as the metaphysical core of human existence. Rejecting the pessimism of Schopenhauer, he viewed the universe through an artistic lens, where even suffering and chaos could be justified as elements of a grand artistic expression. This artistic framework offered optimism, transforming life's struggles into a compelling narrative. For Nietzsche, this interpretation allowed one to find beauty and meaning in the most tragic of circumstances, turning every facet of existence into a potential masterpiece. Such views positioned Nietzsche as a unique voice in philosophical dialogues about the nature of reality. The will to power as a central theme. Central to Nietzsche's thought is the will to power, which he perceived as a driving force behind human activity. This concept challenges traditional moral and philosophical outlooks, suggesting life is about the imposition of one's will over external forces. While often misrepresented as purely domineering, Nietzsche viewed this will as the essence of human creativity and individuality. His portrayal of life as a theater for power dynamics sparked debates on ethics and governance. Though his ideas attracted criticism, they influenced various modern disciplines, from psychology to political theory, underscoring life's intrinsic conflict and creativity. Nietzsche's critique of morality and religion. Nietzsche was a fierce critic of conventional morality and Christianity, which he believed stifled human potential by imposing arbitrary values. His famous proclamation that God is dead symbolizes a break from traditional values in favor of individual empowerment. Nietzsche's writings examined the destructive potential of Christian morality, arguing that it perpetuates weakness rather than strength. He sought a transvaluation of all values, encouraging individuals to forge their own moral frameworks. His ideas challenged the societal status quo, pushing for a reassessment of the underlying principles that govern ethical and religious beliefs. The concept of the Superman. Nietzsche introduced the idea of the Superman, Übermensch, as a goal for humanity to evolve towards, surpassing conventional notions of morality. This figure embodies ultimate self-realization and creative power, living beyond traditional good and evil. The Superman concept incites controversy, interpreted variously as a guide for personal development or a dangerous ideological frame. While skeptics argue it endorses elitism, supporters view it as empowering, highlighting self-worth and the potential within each individual. This concept continues to provoke discussion, serving as a focal point for debates about leadership, ambition, and ethical evolution. Rethinking the value of life. Nietzsche perceived life's highest moments as experiences of intense vitality and creativity, contrasting against deterministic views of existence. He championed individuality and spontaneity, rejecting the mechanistic interpretations of Darwinism. His philosophy posited life as abundant, urging people to celebrate its richness rather than fear its limitations. By emphasizing life's vitality, Nietzsche fostered a philosophical optimism, urging individuals to embrace their passions and potentials. His ideas encourage a reevaluation of life's purpose, advocating for a world where individuals thrive in their unique expressions of creativity and spontaneity. Nietzsche's influence and modern reflections. Despite his polemical views, Nietzsche's thoughts had a profound impact on various modern movements, including existentialism, postmodernism, and psychoanalysis. His reflections on power dynamics, morality, and art inspired thinkers like Foucault and Freud. While his philosophy may not form a cohesive system, the nuances and provocations triggered academic and cultural dialogues. Nietzsche subverted traditional ideologies, encouraging critical reflections on society's principles. His legacy endures, challenging contemporary thinkers to reassess traditional beliefs and explore the complexities of human nature and existential experience in culturally relevant ways. The personal journey and struggles of Nietzsche. Nietzsche's life was marked by personal tragedies and health challenges, profoundly shaping his thinking. His early exposure to loss and suffering influenced his philosophical outlook, imbuing his work with themes of pain and overcoming adversity. Despite his deteriorating health, leading to eventual mental collapse, Nietzsche preserved an optimistic worldview, declaring a refusal to let suffering dictate one's philosophy. His life story provides a poignant context for his radical ideas, illustrating the persistent human struggle between despair and hope, and the power of resilience and creativity in the face of personal and existential crises. Nietzsche's enduring philosophy of life. Nietzsche's work remains a philosophical exploration of life's complexities, championing individual strength and self-discovery. His exhortations to embrace life's chaos as a creative force challenge conventional wisdom, offering a transformative perspective on human existence. Through metaphors and rich imagery, Nietzsche invites readers to rediscover freedom and creativity in an increasingly conformist world. Despite misinterpretations and controversies, his radical call to redefine values and embrace life's unpredictable beauty continues to resonate, urging each person to carve their path with courage and authenticity. Nietzsche's enduring legacy is a testament to the power of ideas to inspire bold new ways of living. A haunting dream and family loss. Nietzsche's early life was marked by a chilling dream, where he saw his father carrying his younger brother's body. This dream sadly became a reality soon after, as his brother Joseph fell ill and passed away. The impact of this loss was intensely personal, leaving a lasting emotional scar on young Nietzsche and his family. They sought solace in their faith, displaying resilience amidst their grief. These experiences exposed Nietzsche to the profound connections between dreams, reality, and the human spirit, laying an emotional foundation that would manifest in his philosophical explorations later. Rooted in the traditions of Naumburg. Moving to Naumburg after his father's death, Nietzsche's formative years were significantly shaped by the town's cultural and social environment. Naumburg, a town steeped in tradition and ruled by simplicity, resonated with the young boy. The regular cadence of church bells, military parades, and religious ceremonies instilled in him a love for rituals and order. These events not only contributed to his disciplined character, but also kindled a lifelong passion for music and philosophical reflections on life, community, and spirituality. Early lyrical and musical inclinations. Nietzsche's early love for music and the arts flourished in Naumburg. Inspired by the local choral and organ performances, he developed a keen interest in music, leading him to create improvised melodies and dedicate compositions to his Polish ancestors. Encouraged by his family, particularly his mother, he wrote verse and composed music for loved ones' anniversaries. This artistic expression played a critical role in Nietzsche's intellectual development, allowing him to explore emotional depths and themes that would eventually find their way into his philosophical musings. The formal education of a future philosopher. Nietzsche's education at the renowned Fortis School marked a crucial period in his life. Known for its rigorous standards and focus on classical languages and literature, Forta pushed Nietzsche both intellectually and personally. The structured environment clashed with his creative spirit, yet it also honed his analytical skills and introduced him to influential Romantic and classical texts. These years laid the groundwork for his future critiques of education and the institutions that shape societal norms, as he wrestled with the tension between conformity and individual thought. Adolescence, a time of transition and self-discovery. As Nietzsche approached adolescence, he grappled with the uncertainties of his future, torn between his artistic inclinations and societal expectations. He utilized this period to reflect deeply on his childhood experiences, documenting them to better understand his evolving identity. Nietzsche's introspective nature and methodical examination of his thoughts and feelings became characteristic of his philosophical approach. This phase was marked by both excitement and anxiety about the path he would choose, foreshadowing the existential and humanistic themes prominent in his later work. Emotional and intellectual awakening. Nietzsche's teenage years saw an intense period of emotional and intellectual awakening, catalyzed by both his engagement with music and his love for literature. Influenced by works of Schiller, Byron, and Hölderlin, Friedrich explored fervent philosophical questions, challenging religious dogma and traditional beliefs. The allure of Greece and Romantic poetry ignited his imagination, putting him at odds with the rigid curricular demands of Forta. This internal conflict between disciplined education and creative intuition laid the foundation for his philosophical explorations into the nature of truth and the essence of existence. Struggling with conformity and identity. Nietzsche's internal struggle with conformity was evident during his early university years at Bonn. The social life, characterized by its drinking and fraternal culture, left him feeling disconnected and ultimately disillusioned. This period of isolation and failed attempts at reforming student behaviors highlighted his distaste for herd mentality and foreshadowed his later writings on authenticity and individuality. Feeling alienated by a world valuing superficial traditions over genuine intellectual and spiritual engagement, Nietzsche began to question societal norms, setting the stage for his philosophical rebellion. The influence of Schopenhauer's philosophy. A pivotal moment for Nietzsche came with his discovery of Arthur Schopenhauer's The World as Will and Idea. The book deeply resonated with him, offering a philosophical lens that aligned with his own reflections on existence, suffering, and the will. Schopenhauer's works helped Nietzsche find a voice for his thoughts on reality, truth, and human suffering, themes that he would continue to explore throughout his life. The encounter with Schopenhauer provided Nietzsche with intellectual clarity and companionship, steering his philosophical trajectory towards examining the darker aspects of human nature and society. A search for meaning beyond religion. At university, Nietzsche's inner turmoils about faith intensified. Raised in a devout family, he began to doubt religious teachings, undergoing a personal crisis of faith. His debates with his sister highlighted his struggle between embracing inherited beliefs and seeking a more personal path to truth and meaning. Nietzsche's rejection of simple religious answers in favor of a more nuanced understanding of existence marked his journey towards secular philosophy. He began to turn away from the comfort of religious absolutes, embarking on a philosophical quest for truth that would reshape modern thought. Towards a unique philosophical path. Rejecting the prevailing philosophical, political, and cultural norms of his time, Nietzsche set himself on a unique path. Disenchanted by the lack of depth in materialistic and democratic ideals, he sought a more profound understanding of human purpose. His resolve to question everything from metaphysics to humanity's role in the universe marked the beginning of his radical ideas. Nietzsche's critical perspective laid the groundwork for his later works, where he would challenge not just those entrenched in tradition, but also those who failed to see beyond the surface of established truths. Nietzsche's encounter with Schopenhauer. Nietzsche's intellectual awakening began with his encounter with Schopenhauer's philosophy. It was a philosophy that portrayed a universe governed by a blind, relentless will, indifferent to human aspirations for progress and dignity. Schopenhauer's metaphysical vision struck Nietzsche with its profound critique of humanity's naive beliefs and dreams. This awakening led him to a fervent quest for truth, even if it was terrible and unsettling. The intense days Nietzsche spent absorbing this worldview had a lasting impact, sparking an intellectual fervor that would drive his philosophical inquiries. This phase solidified his resolve to explore life's profound truths, regardless of their terrifying nature. Finding a master in Schopenhauer. Schopenhauer's influence on Nietzsche went beyond philosophical insights. It fulfilled Nietzsche's yearning for a master. Nietzsche's admiration for Schopenhauer was akin to finding a father figure, a guiding force in his intellectual journey. This mentorship instilled in Nietzsche a sense of belonging and validation. He felt spiritually aligned with Schopenhauer's somber worldview, which resonated with his own reflections during his formative years. This relationship bolstered Nietzsche's self-discovery, guiding him through philosophical and existential explorations, while lending him the courage to pursue controversial truths. Schopenhauer's impact was crucial in shaping Nietzsche's early philosophical identity and aspirations. Nietzsche, Schopenhauer, and the creative will. Nietzsche's absorption of Schopenhauer's philosophy didn't just affect his worldview, it ignited his creative energies as well. In the aftermath of intense study, Nietzsche found himself oscillating between philosophical meditations and musical compositions, an embodiment of the will to life Schopenhauer described. For Nietzsche, the combination of philosophy and music offered a deeper understanding of the human condition, marked by a relentless pursuit of desires and subsequent suffering. These creative endeavors allowed Nietzsche to express his philosophical insights through various mediums, fostering a harmony between his intellectual pursuits and artistic expression, and preparing the foundation for his future contributions. A newfound friend in Erwin Rohde. Nietzsche's intellectual life thrived upon connections with like-minded individuals, and Erwin Rohde became a significant companion. Their friendship, grounded in shared philosophical and artistic interests, provided Nietzsche with the companionship he craved in his pursuit of truth. Together, they exchanged ideas, debated on numerous topics, and explored German and Greek culture. These interactions not only enriched Nietzsche's philosophical perspectives, but also nurtured a sense of camaraderie that balanced his intense solitary reflections. This friendship underscored the importance of human connection in Nietzsche's life, offering a personal dimension to his otherwise solitary intellectual journey. Philosophy and politics, a skeptical view. Though deeply engrossed in philosophical pursuits, Nietzsche maintained a skeptical view of politics. The contemporary political landscape, characterized by nationalistic fervor, did not escape his critical eye. He acknowledged the power dynamics at play, but recognized them as fleeting and superficial compared to the universality of philosophical truths. To Nietzsche, politics were mere distractions from the enduring struggles of existence and the search for deeper meanings. This perspective informed his later critiques of culture and society, as he sought to delve beneath the surface political machinations to unearth the profound forces shaping human history and culture. Meeting Richard Wagner. Nietzsche's meeting with Richard Wagner marked a pivotal moment in his life, sparking a deep admiration and intellectual camaraderie. Wagner, already an established composer and visionary, resonated with Nietzsche's philosophical ideals, particularly their shared romanticism and desire for cultural rejuvenation. Their discussions on music, art, and German culture fueled Nietzsche's imagination and philosophical inquiries. Wagner's ambition and charismatic presence offered Nietzsche a model of the creative genius he long aspired to be. This relationship fostered a passionate exchange of ideas, leaving a lasting imprint on Nietzsche's thought and contributing significantly to his philosophical and artistic development. Nietzsche's philological passion. Despite Nietzsche's intense philosophical explorations, his academic focus remained firmly rooted in philology, the study of language in written historical sources. His rigorous work in philology reflected his dedication to uncovering truths through detailed textual analysis and historical context. This discipline, though sometimes viewed by Nietzsche as an inferior duty, served as a vital foundation for developing his critical skills and intellectual discipline. His philological pursuits, including studies of Greek literature and manuscripts, informed his philosophical critiques by providing historical depth and precision. This scholarly endeavor laid the groundwork for Nietzsche's later philosophical writings, allowing him to fuse rigorous analysis with profound insights. Cultural critique and the role of art. Nietzsche's engagement with Schopenhauer and Wagner significantly influenced his views on culture and art. He saw art as a powerful medium for revealing truths about the human condition and critiquing societal norms. For Nietzsche, art was not merely an aesthetic experience, but a vehicle for philosophical inquiry and cultural critique. His discussions with Wagner reinforced the idea that art must challenge and elevate society, pushing individuals to confront uncomfortable truths and envision new possibilities. This perspective became central to Nietzsche's later works, where he emphasized art's transformative potential and its critical role in challenging cultural decadence and fostering intellectual and spiritual growth. The allure of isolation. Nietzsche often found solace in isolation, a recurring theme throughout his intellectual journey. This self-imposed solitude provided him the space to engage deeply with philosophical texts and to cultivate his thoughts without the distraction of societal conventions. Isolation allowed Nietzsche to explore the depths of human existence and to embrace radical ideas without restraint. Despite the loneliness it sometimes brought, this solitude was essential for creative and intellectual breakthroughs, enabling Nietzsche to develop his unique philosophical voice. He valued this time apart from society as crucial for understanding and critiquing the world, ultimately shaping his enduring legacy as a thinker. The quest for truth above all. Nietzsche's dedication to the pursuit of truth, irrespective of its harshness, defined his intellectual ethos. This unyielding commitment shaped his philosophical inquiries and critiques of contemporary society. He believed that confronting brutal truths was vital for personal growth and cultural advancement. Schopenhauer's pessimism and Wagner's artistic ideals further reinforced this belief, as Nietzsche grappled with existential realities and the complexities of human nature. This focus on unearthing truth became a hallmark of Nietzsche's work, driving him to dissect cultural norms, challenge philosophical dogmas, and explore the philosophical foundations of art, morality, and human existence with unparalleled intensity. The power of illusions. Illusions are an enduring force in human society, with patriotism and religion acting as binding agents that ensure cohesion and perpetuate cultures. These illusions, though sometimes criticized for inducing division and hostility, are seen as essential pillars by influential figures. Leaders are tasked with nurturing these ideals to maintain stability. Nietzsche highlights how art, alongside these illusions, plays a critical role in guiding societies towards higher aspirations, counterbalancing the harshness of reality with upliftment and hope. Understanding this dynamic is key to grasping how civilizations have preserved themselves throughout history. The role of the exceptional. Nietzsche observes that the life of leaders and philosophers diverges from the everyday man's, as they create and propagate the illusions underpinning society. This elevated insight often leads to a profound awareness of life's inherent tragedies, presenting unique challenges. Art becomes a sanctuary, offering a reprieve to those who must navigate the weight of truth and illusion. Being above ordinary struggles renders their experience bittersweet. They seek solace in artistic expressions to reconcile with their unique viewpoint, which combines stark reality with a desire for transcendent beauty, demonstrating the contrasting forces shaping exceptional individuals. Art is salvation. Art emerges as a crucial remedy for the societal elite, soothing the discontents that accompany their roles in maintaining the grand illusions of power and culture. Richard Wagner posits art as a benignant land, offering those who govern and enlighten a reprieve from the burden of reality. By providing an appearance of a game, art elevates daily life to a spiritual engagement. Nietzsche echoes this sentiment, recognizing art's capacity to transform human experience, presenting it as a beacon for those shouldering the philosophical weight of existence. Art thus becomes both refuge and inspiration, sustaining the noble spirit. Nietzsche's personal reflections. Nietzsche's correspondence reveals his introspective struggle with solitude and the absence of profound companionship. Between his lectures in Basel and visits to Tribschen, he finds solace in intellectual exchanges, but feels the yearning for deeper connections. These letters depict a philosophical journey laden with melancholy, yet buoyed by fleeting moments of hope and creativity. Nietzsche's reflections on friendship, solitude, and intellectual endeavor shine through as central themes. His letters provide insight into his complex emotional landscape, where moments of desolation are intertwined with vibrant bursts of philosophical and artistic exploration. The birth of tragedy. Nietzsche's evolving thoughts culminate in his work, The Birth of Tragedy, a remarkable synthesis of Greek philosophy and modern existential inquiries. He explores tragedy's roots in ancient Greece, identifying it as a transformative cultural force. Nietzsche contrasts Greek joy and serenity, viewing them as later cultural developments overshadowed by earlier, more vibrant expressions of strength and vitality. The book contemplates how ancient tragedies reflected humanity's deepest instincts and desires for order amidst life's chaos, highlighting Nietzsche's quest to resurrect these primal forces in contemporary thought, thereby challenging contemporary norms and conventions. A fractured friendship. Nietzsche's deep admiration for Richard Wagner weaves through both personal and professional realms, yet it faces strain as philosophical differences emerge. Their shared vision of reinvigorating cultural ideals finds common ground in early discussions. However, disagreements about state, art, and cultural direction foreshadow their eventual rift. Nietzsche, deeply invested in philosophical authenticity, perceives limitations in Wagner's evolving ideology, contrasting their initial fervor for collaborative renewal. This evolving dynamic not only influences Nietzsche's philosophical trajectory, but underscores the complexity of forging alliances in the pursuit of lofty cultural ideals, a recurring tension in intellectual history. Philosophical isolation. As Nietzsche's philosophical ideas mature, he grapples with a sense of isolation amplified by societal trends. He emerges as a solitary thinker, envisioning a countercultural movement of intellectuals. This aspiration, however, clashes with prevailing academic norms and societal expectations. Nietzsche considers establishing a haven for free thought and profound discussion, inspired by historical reflections and a profound sense of purpose. Yet, this ideal remains elusive, highlighting the challenges of balancing visionary aspirations with the practicalities of limited resources and divergent collaborations, capturing the tension between individual genius and societal engagement. Cultural critique and hope. Nietzsche's observations of contemporary German culture reflect both admiration and concern. While recognizing Germany's cultural achievements, he remains wary of emerging societal trends favoring conformity and superficial pursuits. Nietzsche's philosophical pursuits align with a keen desire to elevate cultural consciousness beyond the trappings of nationalism and utilitarianism. He champions a revival of deeper artistic and cultural ideals, envisioning a society enriched by artistic expression and intellectual fervor. This critique underscores Nietzsche's enduring hope for cultural reawakening amid rapid modernization, shaping his broader philosophical inquiry into the dynamics of societal progress and authenticity. War's influence. The Franco-Prussian War leaves a profound impact on Nietzsche, igniting intense reflections on patriotism, duty, and personal identity. His experiences catalyze a shift from observer to active participant, reshaping his view on societal roles and cultural values. The war illuminates the contrasts between collective fervor and individual reflection, driving Nietzsche to question the deeper implications of nationalism and its place in cultural evolution. This personal journey demonstrates the war's dual role as both a crucible for societal transformation and a catalyst for Nietzsche's developing bold philosophical stance. blending lived experience with broader existential contemplation. Legacy and influence. Amidst his ambitious undertakings, Nietzsche's writings offer glimpses into his legacy as a philosopher whose ideas would challenge and inspire future generations. His interactions with contemporaries, deep reflections, and evolving works laid the foundation for a new era of philosophical thought, influencing existentialists, postmodernists, and beyond. Despite personal challenges and failures, Nietzsche's unwavering commitment to his vision illuminates the enduring impact of intellectual courage and innovation. His philosophical legacy, rooted in the intersection of art, culture, and existential inquiry, continues to provoke thought and discussion, inviting engagement with the complexities of the human condition. Nietzsche's turning point. Friedrich Nietzsche found himself at a pivotal moment. He refused to follow social conventions blindly, choosing instead a solitary path of intellectual pursuit. Inspired by ancient Greece, Nietzsche argued for a return to the raw, unrefined elements of human nature. These elements, he believed, were stifled by the modern states of Europe. Nietzsche felt that these states flattered mediocrity and avoided necessary conflicts. Instead, he sought strength and beauty in the harsh realities and cruelties that the Greeks embraced. This realization steered his focus toward exploring revolutionary truths, insights he believed were crucial for a profound cultural renaissance. Strength and cruelty in Greek culture. Nietzsche admired ancient Greece not only for its beauty, but also for its strength and cruelty, qualities he found absent in modern society. He saw Greek culture as a testament to the necessity of such traits in achieving true artistic greatness. The Greeks pursued art and genius as ultimate ends, utilizing mechanisms like slavery as stepping stones. Nietzsche controversially suggested that this cruel yet effective method was essential for cultural development. He believed that the profound knowledge derived from understanding such historical methods, although terrifying, was necessary for appreciating the full scope of human potential and creativity. The role of slavery in culture. A key component of Nietzsche's analysis was his controversial view on slavery as an integral part of cultural advancement. He suggested that the Greeks used slavery to create a privileged class free to develop art and philosophy. This allowed them to achieve what he deemed an Olympian level of creativity. The modern opposition to ancient principles, like the dignity of man and labor, was, in Nietzsche's view, an obstacle to achieving similar cultural heights. He provocatively claimed that the lack of such ancient mechanisms was leading modern society toward degeneration rather than advancement. The necessity of war. War, according to Nietzsche, was an essential state function, vital for political and artistic endeavor alike. He argued that the state, forged amid conflict, served to lift individuals beyond personal concerns into communal heroism. This communal courage and heroism, he posited, were the driving forces behind society's greatest achievements in both governance and the arts. Political activity and artistic production were, for Nietzsche, intrinsically linked, both nurtured by the periodic crises of war, which invigorated society. In his view, without such challenges, the spirit of the state and its ability to foster greatness would diminish. Modern societal decline. Nietzsche observed symptoms of decline in modern societies, which he thought stemmed from their aversion to conflict. By replacing the traditional role of war with equilibrium and diplomacy, society, driven by interests like international finance, prioritized self-preservation over state strength and cultural richness. This shift, Nietzsche argued, led to a weakened state spirit, lacking the moral impulse necessary to drive nations towards higher destinies. Instead of fostering an environment for artistic and cultural achievement, modern societies focused on avoiding conflict, thereby losing the vigor once instilled by the challenges of war and conquest. Reflections on imperial and cultural power. Nietzsche critiqued the state of modern empires, comparing them unfavorably with the cultural achievements of ancient Greece. Rome, despite its vast empire, represented for Nietzsche a failure to achieve noble ends. He was particularly dismissive of Rome, which he saw as an epitome of a barbaric state lacking in intellectual and artistic achievements. In stark contrast, he venerated the smaller, more focused Greek city-states, like Athens and Sparta, which achieved cultural and artistic excellence. For Nietzsche, the pursuit of greatness in the arts was far superior to territorial expansion without cultural enlightenment. Nietzsche's intellectual solitude. Despite having friends and mentors, Nietzsche often found himself intellectually isolated, driven by visions of cultural revival that few around him seemed to share entirely. He regarded his thoughts as a pursuit of truth, a quest that left him without a significant academic or social following. Nietzsche's circle, including Burckhardt and Overbeck, while understanding and supportive to some extent, did not match his passionate and hopeful outlook. This solitude further deepened his resolve to cling to his philosophical ideals, undeterred by contemporary opinions or the lack of immediate followers. Health and artistic pursuits. Ill health plagued Nietzsche, yet it could not deter him from his philosophical and musical ambitions. Despite enduring painful bouts of illness, he found solace in his intellectual and creative pursuits. His correspondence reveals that this time of physical struggle coincided with moments of profound intellectual clarity and creative vigor. Nietzsche's perseverance through these personal challenges underscored his belief in pursuing higher artistic and philosophical goals, even when confronted by the limitations of his own health and the uncertainties surrounding his life's direction. Nietzsche's evolving philosophical quest. Nietzsche's journey involved a shift from traditional academic paths toward broader, more interdisciplinary aspirations. He abandoned conventional philology, veering into philosophy, aesthetics, and a critique of educational systems. This path was not straightforward, filled with personal doubts and societal skepticism. His writings during this period reflect a deepening understanding of the role of philosophy in shaping culture. Nietzsche sought to redefine educational approaches, advocating for systems that prioritize cultural and philosophical excellence over mass academic indoctrination, believing this was crucial for achieving a more enlightened and creative society. The Wagnerian influence. A significant influence on Nietzsche was his relationship with Richard Wagner, which profoundly impacted his philosophical perspective. Wagner's artistic ideals resonated with Nietzsche's vision of a reinvigorated culture, free from the confines of contemporary norms. However, Nietzsche eventually perceived tensions between Wagner's growing populism and his own idealistic values. This complex relationship embodied the broader struggle Nietzsche faced between aligning with influential figures and remaining true to his revolutionary concepts. Wagner's impact was both inspiring and challenging, shaping Nietzsche's thoughts on art and mass culture's potential to achieve cultural breakthrough. Embracing solitude in the mountains. Friedrich Nietzsche sought solace in the Swiss mountains, finding temporary relief from the pressures of academia and the disappointments of his societal interactions. Away from the expectations of urban life, he experienced rejuvenation through the natural beauty and isolation, which helped him clear his mind and refocus on his philosophical pursuits. This retreat allowed him to appreciate the grandeur of nature and the simplicity of life away from intellectual debates and judgments. This experience laid the groundwork for deeper reflections on human nature, solitude, and culture, allowing Nietzsche to forge new paths in his philosophical journey. The cultural impact of Wagnerian art. Nietzsche's correspondence with influential individuals like Fräulein von Meysenbug highlighted the cultural significance of Richard Wagner's works. Despite his initial admiration for Wagner, Nietzsche began to question the deeper implications of Wagnerian art on society. He observed the excessive religiosity and perceived snobbery surrounding the Wagnerian disciples and their aesthetic pursuits. For Nietzsche, Wagner's creations were both poetic and thought-provoking, embodying a new spirit that sought to revive cultural mysteries. However, Nietzsche's skepticism grew as he pondered whether Wagner's art truly cultivated a noble society or simply masked an anarchic era's existential uncertainties. Wrestling with academic rejection. Back in Basel, Nietzsche faced professional challenges after his pioneering views on philology and philosophy alienated him from the academic establishment. His dissent from conventional philological methods led to criticisms, resulting in lost teaching opportunities and diminished esteem among colleagues. Despite these trials, Nietzsche remained staunchly committed to his intellectual integrity. This period allowed him to critically evaluate the societal impact of academia, questioning its contributions to culture versus its function as a means of livelihood. Nietzsche's frustrations with academic rejection fueled his resolve to pursue a philosophical path that transcended traditional scholarly limitations. The role of the philosopher. Nietzsche's reflections led him to redefine the philosopher's role in society. Rather than creating new truths, he saw philosophers as critical analysts of culture, science, and art, offering guidance rather than new metaphysical beliefs. Inspired by historical figures like Socrates, Nietzsche viewed the philosopher as a midwife of knowledge, fostering clarity and counsel for contemporaries lost in a world increasingly devoid of cultural anchors. He embraced this role, acknowledging the philosopher's paradoxical existence, a critic and a creator, a seeker of truths, yet an agent of necessary illusions that give humanity its much-needed creative impetus. Disillusionment with artistic loyalty. Nietzsche's relationship with Wagner underwent a transformation from admiration to disillusionment. Initially captivated by Wagner's art, Nietzsche later questioned whether his devotion had overshadowed his philosophical pursuits. He realized he had concentrated more on Wagner's influence than on pursuing truth. This self-awareness provoked distress, as Nietzsche felt he betrayed his quest for genuine philosophical exploration in favor of aesthetic indulgence. The realization compelled him to scrutinize his priorities, recognizing the dangers of accepting art as a mere solace, which might lead to the embellishment of life's harsher realities instead of confronting them head-on. Confronting the Philistine culture. Nietzsche's critique of contemporary culture targeted the increasing dominance of Philistine values, marked by superficial happiness and an eager embrace of comfortable mediocrity. Through his analysis of works like D.F. Strauss's The Old Faith and the New, Nietzsche identified Philistines as satisfied consumers of art and knowledge without critical engagement or depth. He lamented how this culture upheld convenience over cultivation, threatening the emergence of genuine intellectual growth and artistry. Nietzsche's observations exposed the disconnect between cultural output and intellectual depth, prompting his call for a return to more meaningful and challenging cultural pursuits. The struggle for intellectual courage. Despite the alienation Nietzsche faced from academic circles and cultural elites, he remained committed to his intellectual journey. Emphasizing the necessity of courage in the face of widespread conformity, Nietzsche believed in the power of sincere critique and honest discourse to elevate human thought. He advocated for a philosophical practice that welcomes doubt and strives to transcend traditional boundaries, even when it leads to isolation. Nietzsche's philosophy underscored the pursuit of intellectual freedom and the importance of maintaining integrity amid societal expectations, inspiring future thinkers to challenge conventional wisdom and pursue truth. The search for cultural rebirth. Nietzsche was deeply concerned with the cultural stagnation he perceived in his contemporary society. His examination of history and philosophy led him to consider the possibility of cultural rebirth through a revival of artistic spirit and intellectual vitality. He believed that the restoration of beauty, virtue, and controlled passion was essential for cultural advancement. Nietzsche's vision involved creating a society inspired by Dionysian ecstasy, where art and philosophy intertwined to invigorate the human spirit. This ideal society, driven by intellectual and artistic effort, contrasted starkly with the complacency of his time, highlighting the transformative power of genuine culture. Commitment to future generations. Nietzsche's dedication to intellectual and cultural pursuits aimed at benefiting future generations. He aspired to leave a legacy that would guide others in the pursuit of higher ideals. Nietzsche's work in areas such as Greek tragedy and aesthetic philosophy was not just a critical endeavor, but also an instructional tool for cultivating nobility in society. His engagement with philosophical challenges was motivated by a sense of duty to instill in others the courage to explore and question the world. This commitment underscores Nietzsche's belief that true cultural progress is a collective endeavor that spans generations. Reconciling art and philosophy. Nietzsche's philosophical introspection often intersected with his appreciation of art, creating a turbulent relationship between his artistic preferences and philosophical convictions. While he admired artists like Wagner, Nietzsche also recognized the potential for art to seduce and mislead. His writings convey an ongoing struggle to balance the emotional intensity of art with the demands of philosophical rigor. Nietzsche's journey highlights his pursuit of an aesthetic philosophy that does not sacrifice truth for beauty. By reconciling these two domains, he sought a harmonious existence where art could elevate the human experience without compromising intellectual integrity. Nietzsche's inner turmoil. Friedrich Nietzsche was often engulfed in emotional and intellectual struggles. A discussion on Wagner's Lohengrin sparked intense criticism from Nietzsche, revealing deep-seated discontent. His letters from the period show a man plagued by doubt and yearning for freedom. Nietzsche's melancholic reflections on his future and capabilities underscore his internal battles. He feared being consumed by his struggles and sought solace and liberty amid what he termed revolting slaveries that surrounded him. His vulnerability was evident as he confided in friends, expressing a profound discouragement about his ability to create and his overall purpose. These internal conflicts set the stage for his philosophical explorations. The hope and symbolism of flowers. Amidst Nietzsche's despair, a simple gesture of flowers from Fräulein von Meisenbug brought him unexpected joy and hope. The flowers, voiceless yet vibrant, spoke to Nietzsche of the possibility of beauty and hope in life's gray moments. In his letter to Meisenbug, Nietzsche reflected on these heralds of spring as reminders of nature's perpetual mystery and life's potential for renewal. This correspondence highlights Nietzsche's yearning for moments of beauty that would pierce through his habitual melancholy. The symbolism of flowers offered him a glimmer of faith in finding life's color amidst prevalent suffering. This episode illustrates the struggle between Nietzsche's heavy existential doubts and flickers of hope inspired by such symbolic gestures. Philosophical sanctuary in Schopenhauer. Nietzsche's philosophical journey frequently brought him back to the teachings of Arthur Schopenhauer. Despite feeling bogged down by doubts about his creative capabilities, Nietzsche found solace in Schopenhauer's writings. He planned to dedicate an essay to Schopenhauer, whose works had once guided him through life's harsh realities towards a state of transcendent understanding, akin to that inspired by great music. This period saw Nietzsche reflecting on Schopenhauer's influence, recognizing that his most productive crises were intertwined with profound sorrow. Reimmersing himself in Schopenhauer's philosophy rekindled Nietzsche's courage and inspiration as he strived to embrace solitude and the daring spirit of a thinker. Schopenhauer's impact restored a semblance of the power of life to Nietzsche during his times of introspection. Friendship as symbolic and real. Nietzsche viewed friendship with an intensity akin to that of romantic love, believing it too could inspire profound passion and crisis. He sensed a pure atmosphere within friendship, one characterized by mutual convictions and admiration. However, Nietzsche also acknowledged its complexities, including inevitable doubts and the painful certainty of possible ruptures. His take on friendship echoed throughout his interactions, especially in his relationships with contemporaries like Richard Wagner. Despite recognizing Wagner's deficiencies as a philosopher, Nietzsche cherished their bond, candidly admitting his emotional dependence on Wagner. Friendship for Nietzsche was a dance between genuine connection and unspoken conflicts, reflecting his broader quest for authentic relationships without compromising his philosophical integrity. The Wagner dilemma. Nietzsche's admiration for Richard Wagner was fraught with complexity. While he revered Wagner as an artist who could evoke beauty and happiness, he was disillusioned by Wagner's limitations as a philosopher. Nietzsche's correspondence reveals his struggle with this artistic infatuation and the pain of potential estrangement. Attempts to assert his independence, such as a symbolic gesture involving Brahms's score, underscored Nietzsche's desire to influence Wagner. The tension reached a crescendo during a visit that led to a dramatic but momentary confrontation. These episodes reveal Nietzsche's internal conflict between intellectual independence and his emotional ties to Wagner, illuminating broader themes of loyalty, artistic obsession, and the cost of maintaining such influential yet burdensome relationships. Battling health and isolation. Amidst philosophical and emotional upheavals, Nietzsche contended with significant health issues. Recurrent headaches, eyesight problems, and digestive complications often incapacitated him, forcing periods of isolation and introspection. While he viewed physical suffering as occasionally beneficial for distracting from existential woes, Nietzsche's letters often conveyed desperation regarding his health's impact on personal and professional fulfillment. He wrestled with an ongoing fear of inheriting the hereditary illness that had claimed his father, which coupled with a broader sense of life as inherently difficult and restrictive. These episodes highlight Nietzsche's vulnerability and amplify his philosophical pursuits as not only intellectual necessities but essential distractions from his physical and existential pain. Bayreuth conflicts and decisions. The approach of Wagner's Bayreuth rehearsals posed a significant dilemma for Nietzsche, manifesting his struggles between social obligation and personal convictions. Faced with invitations from Wagner, Nietzsche's letters reveal his fluctuating resolve as he pondered whether to engage with an environment representing artistic community, but also personal compromise. Despite rejecting invitations due to his health and professorial duties, Nietzsche remained emotionally tethered to the cultural pull of Bayreuth. His retreats and hesitations illustrate Nietzsche's broader conflict in reconciling his philosophical ideals with the realities of interpersonal engagement. The tensions surrounding Bayreuth underscore Nietzsche's journey of seeking independence in thought while navigating the constraints of his closest artistic relationships. Embracing solitude and new beginnings. Nietzsche's time at the therapeutic retreat of Steinabad marked a period where solitude catalyzed reflection rather than despair. Here he contemplated his philosophical quest while acknowledging personal limits, experiencing a profound moment of epiphany. Nietzsche resolved to embrace silence and meticulous study over the orchestration of impulsive intellectual declarations. He committed himself to understanding the depths of human motivation through diverse fields such as natural sciences, economics, and history, viewing earlier writings as youthful indulgences in intoxication. This shift signified a new phase for Nietzsche, marked by pragmatic dedication to mastering himself and deepening his intellectual foundation. His acknowledgement of a time-bound quest for truth emphasized both a strategic withdrawal from romanticized academia and an engagement in rigorous, lifelong learning. Philosophy versus personal beliefs. As Nietzsche committed to his expansive philosophical project, he grappled with existing pessimistic doctrines that intersected with his broader beliefs. Engaging with Dühring's affirmations on the hard realities of life, Nietzsche diverged on the nature of asceticism and altruism. He contested the idea that asceticism signified error, advocating instead for recognizing it as a noble instinct within humanity's strongest. Additionally, Nietzsche rejected the notion of egoism as merely apparent, valuing a realist depiction of life's tragic dimensions over idealistic evasions. These critical distinctions illustrated Nietzsche's refusal to simplify complex human motivations, underscoring his commitment to uncovering truths rather than conforming to prevalent socio-philosophical narratives. Despite constant health battles, these intellectual engagements kept Nietzsche's philosophical fires kindled, refining his pursuit of existential authenticity. The influence of inspirational figures. Throughout his philosophical journey, Friedrich Nietzsche drew inspiration from literary and historical figures whose works resonated with his evolving ideas. The wisdom of Schopenhauer served as a touchpoint for rediscovering past joys, while Emerson's youthful optimism provided a counterbalance to his more nihilistic tendencies. Additionally, Nietzsche's admiration for Schopenhauer's ability to elevate through suffering echoed in his evaluation of Wagner, whose art, despite artistic conflicts, continued to enchant him. The steadfast influence of these thinkers underscored Nietzsche's recognition of intellectual kinship and artistic greatness. Despite complex relationships, Nietzsche's appreciation for these figures highlights his continued engagement with their philosophies as he pieced together his own ideological mosaic. This rich tapestry of influences informed Nietzsche's desire for transformative self-discovery in the pursuit of truth and enlightenment. The early influence of Wagner. Friedrich Nietzsche's relationship with Richard Wagner began with awe and admiration. Wagner's music and philosophy had a profound impact on Nietzsche, leading him to consider these influences as essential to his personal and intellectual growth. Wagner's works were like fresh blood coursing through Nietzsche's veins, invigorating and propelling him forward. Every May, Nietzsche would celebrate the anniversary of his introduction to Wagner's world as a rebirth of his own spirit. During this period, Wagner was not just a composer, but a spiritual guide whose ideas became deeply embedded in Nietzsche's understanding of art and life. A turning point at Bayreuth. As Nietzsche attended the Bayreuth Festival, a shift began. Despite his initially strong connection, he found himself increasingly uncomfortable with the group's uncritical adulation of Wagner. Nietzsche perceived Wagner's art as sedating rather than enlightening, contrary to the ideals of tragedy he once cherished. What once inspired him now seemed constraining and superficial, causing Nietzsche to question the depth and direction of Wagner's influence on modern culture. This internal conflict marked the start of Nietzsche's reassessment of his former master's role in his life, as he pondered the true value of Wagner's artistic triumphs. Critique of Wagnerian art. Nietzsche's disillusionment with Wagner's art grew as he recognized a divergence from his own evolving ideals. Wagner's embrace of Christianity in Parsifal clashed with Nietzsche's search for a new possibility of life, unanchored from religious doctrine. He observed a troubling tendency among Wagner's followers towards passive acceptance rather than active engagement with philosophical challenges. This dissatisfaction led Nietzsche to reevaluate the meaning and purpose of art. For Nietzsche, art was not just about aesthetic pleasure, but a force compelling deeper understanding and exploration of life's complexities, a mission he felt Wagnerian art no longer fulfilled. The crisis at Sorrento. In Sorrento, amidst a cultural retreat with close companions, Nietzsche attempted to distance himself from Wagner's overbearing influence. Despite the serene surroundings and intellectual discussions, Nietzsche felt a looming crisis. His ideals clashed with the prevailing Wagnerian orthodoxy, placing him in a state of inner turmoil. As conversations shifted from Wagner to other intellectual pursuits, Nietzsche witnessed firsthand the seductive pull of Wagner's charisma and legacy. This period was marked by a growing recognition of the need to disentangle his own philosophy from Wagner's overpowering narrative and find his own intellectual path. A break with the past. When Nietzsche finally broke away from Wagner, it wasn't just a personal rift, but a critical shift in his philosophical journey. He realized that to pursue his own understanding of life, he needed to shake off the reverence for Wagner that had held him captive. He embarked on a quest to find a new philosophy, free of the constraints imposed by Wagner's legacy. Nietzsche began to explore themes of solitude and independence, aiming to construct a framework for thought that celebrated individual strength and creativity, unshackled from the seductive promises of the past. The publication of Human, All Too Human. Nietzsche sought a wider philosophical audience with the publication of Human, All Too Human. This work marked his departure from Wagnerian ideals, embracing a new rationalism. It was a bold attempt to offer critique and insight into societal norms, challenging romantic notions with rational skepticism. Nietzsche was conscious of the radical nature of his arguments. anticipating the shock they would deliver to those familiar with his past allegiance to Wagner. This book was, in many ways, an intellectual declaration of independence, an assertion of Nietzsche's desire to establish a new trajectory for his thinking. The reception and impact. The reaction to Human, All Too Human was mixed, highlighting the challenge Nietzsche faced in stepping out of Wagner's shadow. While some critics acknowledged the philosophical depth of Nietzsche's work, others saw it as a betrayal of his earlier admiration for Wagner. His relationship with former allies deteriorated, and the Bayreuth Circle viewed him as an outlier, perhaps even an ingrate. Despite this, Nietzsche stood by his insights, committed to pushing the boundaries of conventional thought. He endured both public criticism and personal anguish as he sought validation for his new philosophical endeavors. Nietzsche's health and retreat. Profound personal and philosophical changes took a toll on Nietzsche's health. Struggling with physical ailments, he retired from his teaching position, seeking solace in the tranquility of the Swiss Alps. Nietzsche's search for recovery amidst nature was both a physical and metaphysical retreat. It provided him the serenity required to reflect deeply on his transformative journey. Nietzsche's time at the Engadine offered a chance to recalibrate away from academic and ideological pressures, allowing the space needed to nurture his evolving ideas and cultivate a path towards new intellectual endeavors. Connection with nature and philosophy. The natural surroundings offered Nietzsche a sense of peace and inspiration. Amidst the majestic landscapes, he contemplated the simplicity and grandeur of nature as a metaphor for human existence. Nietzsche's reflections during this time emphasized harmony with nature as a guiding principle for clarity and strength. He envisioned a philosophy grounded in the natural world, where serenity and simplicity coexisted with human complexity. This connection helped him distill complex emotions and ideas into a clearer framework that prioritized a refined, triumphant life philosophy over the romanticism of his past influences. Rising from crisis to enlightenment. Emerging from the shadows of crisis, Nietzsche's philosophy evolved into one of assertive enlightenment. He championed the supremacy of the mind over transient idealism, shifting from a romanticized past towards a future of rational exploration. His work during this period reflected a commitment to authenticity and self-discovery, challenging societal norms and expectations. Nietzsche's transformation from an ardent admirer to an independent thinker illustrates a journey of intellectual liberation. By embracing his personal truth, he laid the groundwork for future philosophical inquiries that would continue to push the boundaries of human understanding. Finding solace in solitude. Nietzsche's challenging experiences in the Engadine show his preference for solitude, where he could devote himself to music, books, and introspective thought. In his modest surroundings, deprived of friends yet surrounded by nature, Nietzsche engaged in profound self-reflection. Despite persistent health challenges, he filled notebooks with thoughts that steered clear of bitterness. This isolation served as a necessary respite, allowing him to savor nature's simple joys and experience moments of tranquility. His reflections during this time captured the uplifting balance between skepticism and serene acceptance, revealing strength in solitude against the backdrop of life's anticipated hardships. The triumph of thought over suffering. Nietzsche's philosophy emerged as a response to his severe physical and emotional suffering. Despite facing debilitating health issues, he remained determined to extract meaning from his pain, viewing it as a vehicle for intellectual and spiritual growth. This relentless pursuit of understanding led him to cultivate a mindset resilient against despondency, embracing suffering as a form of spiritual exercise rather than a defeat. Nietzsche found solace in the intellectual challenge it presented, using this tension as a counterbalance to physical distress. His experiences illustrate how suffering can nurture deep philosophical insights and inspire a stronger, more introspective resilience. Embracing eternal recurrence. In the serene Swiss woods of Sils Maria, Nietzsche conceived the revolutionary idea of the eternal return. This philosophical insight suggested that time, being infinite, would eventually loop, bringing back every moment and event throughout existence. Recognizing the profound implications that each moment holds eternal significance led Nietzsche to embrace life's transient but divine moments. This doctrine challenged the human quest for meaning beyond life, placing value instead on living fully in the now. By attributing infinite worth to fleeting experiences, Nietzsche a newfound determination to celebrate life, endowing ephemeral moments with divine essence. Nature's restorative power. Returning to nature provided Nietzsche a necessary escape from the intellectual and emotional demands of his urban life. His move to the tranquil landscapes of Italy and the Engadine allowed him to find renewal in natural beauty. Immersing himself in serene surroundings, from alpine peaks to the calming sea of Genoa, he found clarity and creative inspiration. The simplicity and cyclic beauty of nature restored his spirit, enhancing his philosophical work. Nietzsche's reverent reflections on nature highlight its vital role in rejuvenating the mind and nurturing the intellect, affirming that nature remains a powerful ally in personal healing and intellectual revelation. Musical inspirations. Music held a significant influence over Nietzsche, serving as both a source of comfort and a conceptual stimulant. Despite his complicated relationship with Richard Wagner's work, Nietzsche found depth and liberation in the compositions of Chopin and Bizet. These provided him with an escape from his own existential troubles, enabling moments of emotional release and joy. This musical journey paralleled his philosophical explorations, encouraging a creative and harmonious approach to expressing profound ideas. The power of music, as reflected in Nietzsche's life, can illuminate paths toward liberty of thought and emotional expression, merging artistic and philosophical insights. The influence of friendships and intellectual exchanges. Nietzsche's friendships and intellectual correspondences significantly shaped his work and insights. Notable figures like Peter Gast and Lou Salome influenced his life deeply, contributing to both personal introspection and philosophical development. These relationships fostered vibrant exchanges of ideas and served as mirrors reflecting his thoughts and struggles. Though relationships sometimes grew strained, with friends misunderstanding or leaving him, they often provided Nietzsche with emotional support, inspiration, and constructive critique. This interplay of intellectual camaraderie and tension portrays how friendships influence and stimulate philosophical growth, offering a rich tapestry of perspectives on life's profound questions. Conflict and creativity, wrestling with ideals. Nietzsche's life and work were marked by internal and external conflicts that spurred his creativity. The tension between his brash new ideas and prevailing societal norms fostered a rich ground for philosophical exploration. Confronting the cultural values instilled by traditional religion and philosophy, Nietzsche boldly navigated new existential paths, often clashing with peers and predecessors like Wagner. This struggle fed his intellectual fire and catalyzed unique doctrines like the eternal return. By embracing and reworking these conflicts, Nietzsche showcased how creative impulses can emerge from discord, ultimately driving philosophical innovation and personal expression. The Romantic legacy, bridging the old and new. Nietzsche's relationship with the Romantic movement was complex, blending admiration with a critical desire to transcend its limitations. While he recognized its profound emotional impact and artistic legacy, Nietzsche sought to forge new philosophical paths that challenged Romantic idealism. He retained an appreciation for its depth and beauty, but was also attentive to its pitfalls, such as escapism and sentimentality. By navigating between reverence and critique, Nietzsche embarked on a quest to create philosophies that harmonized timeless romantic emotions with rational, forward-thinking insights, illustrating a balance between honoring tradition and innovating beyond it. The search for health and physical resilience. Nietzsche's lifelong health struggles profoundly influenced his philosophy and lifestyle. Despite frequent illness, he pursued a lifestyle that prioritized simplicity, routine, and natural remedies, hoping to manage his ailments through discipline and self-care. His quest for health was not just physical, but also intellectual, seeking a balanced life that would enable his philosophical work to thrive. This struggle underlined his belief that cultivating personal resilience is essential for a fulfilled life, emphasizing that intellectual vigor and physical well-being are intimately linked, each fostering the endurance needed for philosophical exploration and sustained creativity. Creative flourishing in Italy's embrace. Nietzsche found artistic and philosophical renewal in the diverse landscapes and vibrant culture of Italy. From Genoa's coastal vibrancy to Venice's deep beauty, Italy served as an intellectual and emotional sanctuary, inspiring newfound creativity. The warmth and clarity of the Italian surroundings rejuvenated Nietzsche's energies, facilitating the exploration of innovative concepts like the eternal return, and motivating his fight against intellectual and aesthetic constraints of the past. Italy's atmosphere invigorated his thoughts, suggesting how environment and culture can profoundly nourish individual creativity and provoke groundbreaking philosophical insights, melding environment with purpose and intellectual pursuits. A philosophical friendship begins. Friedrich Nietzsche, alongside his friend Paul Riesz, found himself captivated by the intellectual charm of Lou Salome. The trio spent time discussing philosophy in the scenic environments of Lucerne, where Nietzsche shared memories and reflections, striving to leave behind the shadow of his past influences like Richard Wagner and Schopenhauer. This intellectual camaraderie was charged with unspoken emotions as Nietzsche began to feel a deep connection with Salome, though he struggled to express his feelings directly, choosing instead to confide in Riesz to speak on his behalf. This relationship sowed seeds of deep introspection, influencing Nietzsche's intellectual rhythms profoundly. An unrequited love. Nietzsche proposed a platonic marriage to Lou Salome, hoping to foster an intellectually enriching companionship devoid of traditional romantic ties. Despite his heartfelt intentions, Salome declined the offer, claiming her heart was still healing from a recent affair. Nietzsche's reaction was one of initial disappointment, yet he found solace in the spiritual bond they shared. This friendship, though not what Nietzsche envisioned, was offered as an alternative, allowing him to still explore philosophical dialogues with Salome. The experience deepened his reflections on human relationships, fostering a philosophical resilience that would later echo through his writings. Creative inspiration and emotional turmoil. Nietzsche's brief stay in Basel saw him express hopes of a spiritually fruitful union with Salome that went beyond mere companionship. In discussions with the Overbecks, he envisioned an intellectual partnership that would birth profound philosophical insights, even hinting at the potential for creating a spiritual son, referring to one of his future works. Nonetheless, he remained hesitant to fully articulate the depths of his feelings, leading to bouts of internal conflict and outward bursts of enthusiasm. This period marked a pivotal moment in Nietzsche's creativity, foreshadowing his transformative work, Thus Spoke Zarathustra. A philosophical heartbreak. Lou Salome's rejection became a cornerstone of Nietzsche's emotional and philosophical evolution. Following the refusal, Nietzsche revisited Lucerne, seeking a more favorable response from Salome, but she remained steadfast in her decision. The experience led him to a profound examination of the nature of unrequited love and the complexity of intellectual partnerships. Though Salome offered lasting friendship, Nietzsche's heartache fueled his resolve to channel his emotions into philosophical inquiry, influencing his thoughts on human suffering, destiny, and the tensions between personal desire and intellectual aspiration. Nietzsche's solitude in Naumburg. After the emotional upheaval with Salome, Nietzsche retreated to Naumburg, isolating himself among family. This period of solitude was marked by reflection and the germination of his seminal work, The Gay Science. Nietzsche's interactions with his mother and sister masked his underlying sorrow, yet they refueled his philosophical vigor. The essays written during this time reflected themes of joy, suffering, and the transient nature of existence. Through solitude, Nietzsche found a refuge that enabled him to delve into crises of faith and the nuances of human emotion, preparing the ground for more radical intellectual pursuits. The birth of Thus Spoke Zarathustra. In the quietude of Rapallo, Nietzsche's philosophical vision took a transformative turn. Here, he conceptualized Thus Spoke Zarathustra, a poetic narrative exploring the potential of humanity beyond traditional moral confines. This work, shaped by personal turmoil and spiritual conflict, introduced the idea of the Übermensch, a higher form of human existence. Nietzsche's exploration of the Superman symbolized a break from societal norms and religious limitations, advocating for the evolution of mankind through self-overcoming and individual enlightenment. It was a synthesis of past philosophical influences and a stepping stone to new ideological horizons. Challenging traditional morals. One of the key ideas in Thus Spoke Zarathustra is Nietzsche's challenge to conventional morality. In his narrative, Nietzsche explores the notion of creating values and living beyond good and evil, encouraging the embrace of existence with all its paradoxes. This radical reinterpretation of morality questions the constraints imposed by religion and societal norms, urging individuals to craft their own destinies. Through Zarathustra, Nietzsche advocates for moral evolution that emanates from individual experiences rather than prescribed doctrines, emphasizing personal authenticity and the courage to embrace uncertainty as paths to true enlightenment. Nietzsche's vision of friendship and betrayal. The tumultuous dynamics between Nietzsche, Salome, and Rie captured the complex interplay of friendship and betrayal. Nietzsche's expectation of a deep intellectual alliance with Salome was disrupted by perceived betrayals and misunderstandings. The emotional fallout from these relationships highlighted Nietzsche's internal struggles with trust and camaraderie. These experiences offered him profound insights into the fragile nature of human bonds and the personal cost of pursuing philosophical ideals. Despite the heartbreak, Nietzsche considered these lessons integral to his philosophical growth, reflecting on them in subsequent works as testaments to the complexity and depth of genuine friendships. The influence of Zarathustra's doctrine. Zarathustra's teachings sparked considerable reflection and discourse. Nietzsche envisioned the Übermensch as a response to the existential void left by the decline of religious belief. This idea proposed a radical rethinking of human potential, suggesting that wisdom and strength could emerge from embracing life's paradoxes with courage. Nietzsche's doctrine suggested the creation of new values and emphasized personal responsibility in shaping one's fate. The philosophical underpinnings of Thus Spoke Zarathustra offered both a critique of existing moral paradigms and a hopeful vision of humanity's capability to transcend its limitations and flourish through self-discovery. Legacy and lyrical philosophy. Nietzsche's lyrical exploration of life's challenges in Thus Spoke Zarathustra cemented his reputation as a revolutionary thinker. The work's blend of narrative and philosophical inquiry provided a groundbreaking format that influenced subsequent generations. Nietzsche's allegiance to creativity, emotional depth, and intellectual honesty bridged the gap between traditional philosophical discourses and poetic expression. Through Zarathustra, Nietzsche articulated the drama of the human condition, its triumphs and despair, leaving a lasting legacy that continues to resonate. His commitment to exploring the essential nature of humanity and his daring philosophical narratives remain profound, offering enduring insights into human experience. A philosopher's solitary pursuit. Friedrich Nietzsche grappled with solitude as both a burden and a necessary condition for his philosophical work. His attempts to embrace isolation were driven by the belief that understanding high truths required detachment from societal norms and close relationships. Despite the loneliness, Nietzsche saw solitude as a source of profound insight. His efforts to endure this isolation often led to moments of both clarity and existential despair, reflecting his inner conflicts and the intense personal sacrifices he made in pursuit of intellectual liberation. Strained family ties and tensions. Nietzsche's relationships with his family were complex and fraught with tension. While he cared deeply for his mother and sister, he often felt a disconnect due to differing worldviews. These familial strains were exacerbated by his sister's involvement with figures Nietzsche despised, adding layers of frustration and disappointment. Despite these challenges, Nietzsche's affection remained, revealing the duality of tenderness and conflict that characterized his interactions with those closest to him. This familial dynamic profoundly influenced his philosophical thoughts on loyalty, individuality, and the human condition. Struggles with personal health. Nietzsche's health was a constant obstacle, impacting his mental and emotional well-being. He suffered from debilitating headaches and a fragile constitution, which often left him in states of profound melancholy. This physical vulnerability influenced his philosophy as he sought environments that mitigated his ailments. The pursuit of a suitable climate for his health intertwined with his philosophical quest, illustrating how personal well-being and intellectual pursuits were closely linked in Nietzsche's life. A tumultuous creative process. Creating Thus Spoke Zarathustra was a monumental task for Nietzsche, filled with both inspiration and overwhelming difficulty. He aimed to surpass traditional poetic and philosophical works, aspiring to redefine moral systems and propose new values. The intense pressure to realize this vision often led to creative blockages, as Nietzsche wrestled with the paradoxes inherent in his ideas. His commitment to completing the work reflects his determination to leave a lasting impact, despite the immense personal cost and emotional turmoil involved in the creative process. Quest for intellectual companionship. Throughout his life, Nietzsche sought intellectual equals to share in his philosophical journey. His search often led to both profound connections and deep disappointments. He valued sincerity, independence of thought, and the courage to challenge norms, traits he found lacking in many of his contemporaries. The lack of understanding and recognition from peers reinforced his isolation, yet it also fueled his passion for articulating truths that few dared to explore. This quest underscores the loneliness of his intellectual path, as well as the rare instances of camaraderie that buoyed his spirit. Navigating the literary world. Publishing and popular reception were significant hurdles for Nietzsche. Despite his groundbreaking ideas, his works were often ignored or misunderstood by general audiences. This struggle for recognition frustrated Nietzsche, as he believed in his work's transformative potential. He grappled with the contradiction of seeking widespread influence while maintaining the integrity of his radical ideas. This tension is evident in how he approached publishing, balancing the desire for comprehension with the reality of being ahead of his time. The intersection of philosophy and poetry. Nietzsche sought to unify philosophy and poetry in his work, believing that profound truths could be expressed through both rational discourse and lyrical expression. This integrated approach aimed to engage the reader on multiple levels, seeking not only to inform, but also to inspire. His ambition was to capture the sublime nature of existence, blending the analytical with the aesthetic. This synthesis reflected his belief that truth is not merely a rational construct, but an emotional and experiential reality. Vision of eternal return and the Superman. Central to Nietzsche's philosophy were the concepts of eternal return and the Superman. The eternal return posits that all events in life repeat indefinitely, challenging individuals to live authentically. The Superman, or Übermensch, represents the ideal individual who creates their own values and transcends conventional morality. Nietzsche grappled with reconciling these ideas, as they present a paradox between nihilism and hope. His exploration of these themes reflects a deep engagement with the possibilities of human potential and the courage required to embrace their implications. Nietzsche's evolution of thought. Over time, Nietzsche's philosophical perspective evolved, shaped by personal experiences and intellectual growth. Early influences, such as Wagner, were eventually replaced by his own distinct views that challenged cultural and religious norms. This evolution was not without conflict, as Nietzsche often revisited and reevaluated his ideas. His willingness to question and adapt reflects a commitment to intellectual honesty and a refusal to settle for easy answers, demonstrating a dynamic journey of continual self-discovery and philosophical refinement. Legacy and influence beyond recognition. Despite limited recognition during his lifetime, Nietzsche's ideas have profoundly influenced modern thought, shaping disciplines such as existentialism, psychology, and literary criticism. His challenge to traditional morality and advocacy for self-determination resonate with contemporary themes of identity and freedom. Nietzsche's legacy is a testament to the enduring power of innovative thought and the courage to pursue radical ideas, inspiring generations to question, explore, and seek deeper meaning in the human experience. His work remains a beacon for those who dare to think beyond accepted conventions. Nietzsche's struggles with isolation. Nietzsche's life was marked by profound loneliness, despite his intellectual brilliance. After self-publishing his work Thus Spake Zarathustra, he found himself with only a handful of friends, some of whom were not truly engaged with his ideas. This solitude weighed heavily on him, amplifying his feelings of being misunderstood and disconnected from others. As he transitioned away from lyrical writing towards philosophy, Nietzsche sought companionship and insight from those around him, a desire to find like-minded thinkers who could comprehend and debate his concepts. Nonetheless, his philosophical pursuits led him deeper into introspection and away from the mainstream intellectual circles. The abandonment of Zarathustra. Nietzsche's shift from Thus Spake Zarathustra to crafting new philosophical ideas represented a significant transformation in his intellectual journey. Feeling that his narrative work was incomplete, he turned to abstract philosophical writings, attempting to articulate thoughts left unsaid in his lyrical compositions. This transition was not just a change in genre, but an indication of Nietzsche's frustration with both the form and reception of his previous works. He acknowledged the incomplete nature of Zarathustra and was driven to express what he saw as fundamental truths about human nature, power, and morality in a more direct philosophical framework. The Will to Power, a New Philosophy. Central to Nietzsche's philosophical exploration was the concept of the will to power, which he developed as a response to and a reinterpretation of Schopenhauer's will to live. Nietzsche posited that all actions and phenomena could be understood as manifestations of a fundamental drive for power and dominance, rather than mere survival. This theory challenged existing moral constructs, proposing that growth, conquest, and self-overcoming were the true essence of life. Nietzsche's ambitious project sought to establish a new framework for understanding human behavior and societal structures, urging a reassessment of values and virtues through this lens of power dynamics. Nietzsche's Venetian escape. Amidst his philosophical pursuits, Nietzsche found solace in Venice, a city he adored for its beauty and tranquility. This environment provided a temporary refuge from his intellectual struggles and the isolation he experienced. Venice stimulated his senses and offered moments of joy and inspiration, crucial for his creative processes. There, he indulged in music, art, and the company of his friend Peter Gast, which briefly alleviated his solitude. The serenity of Venice sparked a resurgence of Nietzsche's poetic inclinations, albeit fleetingly, as he continued to grapple with his philosophical endeavors. The burden of new ideas. Nietzsche was acutely aware of the weight his groundbreaking ideas could impose on those who engaged with them. He feared for the impact his philosophy might have on sensitive minds, recognizing the turbulence his thoughts could invoke. This awareness did not deter him from pursuing his convictions, but added a layer of introspection and responsibility to his work. Nietzsche anticipated that his redefinition of values and morality might only be fully appreciated in the future, when society had evolved enough to understand and incorporate such radical concepts. His isolation was compounded by the lack of contemporaneous thinkers who could genuinely engage with his revolutionary ideas. Beyond Good and Evil, a prelude. Following his contemplations on the will to power, Nietzsche embarked on writing Beyond Good and Evil, intending it as a prelude to a larger philosophical work. This book encapsulated his critique of conventional morality, proposing a more dynamic and fluid interpretation of ethical norms. Nietzsche sought to dismantle binary moral frameworks, suggesting instead that actions be evaluated based on their life-affirming potential, rather than adherence to rigid moral codes. Despite his excitement for this work, Nietzsche faced significant challenges in finding a publisher willing to distribute these controversial ideas, highlighting his ongoing struggle with acceptance in the intellectual community. A quest for companionship. Throughout his life, Nietzsche yearned for companionship and understanding from intellectual equals. He dreamed of an environment where his ideas could be discussed and refined among peers who shared his passions and insights. Despite his numerous attempts to surround himself with such a circle, Nietzsche often found himself disillusioned by the shallow understanding or outright rejection of his contemporaries. This longing for camaraderie was evident in his interactions with his sister, Lisbeth, and his close friends. Nietzsche's quest for fellowship was not just for intellectual validation, but also for emotional support amidst the solitude of his philosophical inquiries. Nietzsche and his influences. Nietzsche's philosophical inquiries were deeply influenced by figures like Schopenhauer and Wagner, although he eventually moved beyond their teachings. His early works reflected a blend of Schopenhauer's pessimism and Wagner's artistic ideals. However, as Nietzsche's thinking matured, he grew critical of their limitations, seeking a more expansive and power-centered understanding of human nature. Nietzsche's later philosophy represented a departure from these initial influences, embracing a more individualistic and transformative approach to concepts such as power, morality, and self-realization, showcasing his evolution into a pioneering thinker. The impact of personal experiences. Nietzsche's personal experiences profoundly shaped his philosophical outlook. His recurrent health issues, emotional turmoils, and life as an outsider informed much of his thinking. These hardships instilled in him a skepticism of conventional morals and values, urging a reevaluation of the concepts of strength and vitality. Nietzsche's writings often reflected his struggle to reconcile his intense intellectual aspirations with the constraints imposed by his physical and mental condition, imparting a unique depth and authenticity to his explorations of the human condition and the pursuit of power. A legacy of provocation and insight. Friedrich Nietzsche left behind a legacy that continues to provoke and inspire thinkers across disciplines. His challenge to traditional morality, emphasis on individual strength, and the notion of will to power have had a significant impact on modern philosophy, psychology, and cultural criticism. Despite the controversies surrounding his work, Nietzsche's bold inquiries into the nature of existence and his relentless pursuit of truth established him as a pivotal figure in Western thought. His writings encourage readers to question societal norms and embrace a more personal and empowered understanding of life. Nietzsche's philosophical projects. Friedrich Nietzsche envisioned a grand philosophical project consisting of 4 books, each dealing with pivotal themes in his philosophy. He aimed to tackle European nihilism, criticism of superior values, principles of a new evaluation, and discipline and selection. Despite grappling with health issues, Nietzsche was determined to explore these ambitious themes, attempting to lay down a new philosophical foundation. He sought to redefine values and morality in a way that would transcend traditional European thought, setting a new path for future thinkers. Health struggles and inspirations. Nietzsche's health was a recurring challenge that significantly impacted his work. His constant search for a climate that would provide relief led him to the Italian lakes, where he found temporary solace. Despite these struggles, he found beauty and inspiration in nature, which rejuvenated his philosophical pursuits. These personal battles were intertwined with his reflections, where he aimed to reconcile his physical suffering with his intellectual endeavors. Nietzsche's work ethic and commitment to philosophical inquiry endured despite his ailments. The problem of new values. The core of Nietzsche's philosophical exploration was his quest for new values. He grappled with defining the principle of a new evaluation and the problem of the legislator. This involved creating a hierarchy where energies would not annihilate each other, but augment human capability. Nietzsche critiqued existing moral orders and proposed an elevation of force and creativity, seeking a balance between chaos and order. He was relentless in his pursuit to redefine what it means to be virtuous, ultimately desiring a renaissance in human values. Evolving thoughts on morality. Nietzsche's exploration of morality was not just theoretical, but personal. He mounted a critique against traditional moral systems, advocating for a perspective beyond conventional good and evil. In his Genealogy of Morals, he questioned the exaltations of meekness and condemned the vilification of strength. Nietzsche argued for a multiplicity of morals that reflect the spectrum of human experience. His radical views positioned him against mainstream ethical norms, challenging readers to rethink age-old moral constructs. Nietzsche and modern society. Nietzsche was a keen observer of contemporary society, often critical of its direction. He lamented the absurd state of Europe, where democratic mediocrity seemed to prevail. Yet, he also speculated on the possible utility of these states in preserving humanity. Nietzsche questioned whether the perceived weakness could be a strategic adaptation necessary for the long-term survival of humanity. His reflections on society reveal his nuanced understanding of cultural dynamics and their potential impacts on the evolution of human values. Critique of mass morality. Nietzsche explored the concept of mass morality, debating its necessity in the survival and happiness of the majority. While recognizing the vitality of such beliefs for societal function, he also viewed them as obstacles to the rise of a superior humanity. Nietzsche emphasized the need for the masses to find their truths, which, although perhaps illusory, were indispensable to cultural stability. He argued that stabilizing a mediocrity was crucial before a higher form of culture could emerge. Philosophical isolation. Nietzsche was acutely aware of his isolation within the philosophical community, often expressing this solitude in his writings. Despite limited recognition, interactions with figures like George Brandes and Taine provided some validation. He lamented the disconnect between his revolutionary ideas and the widespread misunderstanding of his work. Nietzsche's struggle with solitude underscores the personal cost of his intellectual journey, illustrating how isolation fueled both his creative genius and personal despair. Benevolent critique of religion. Despite his criticisms of Christianity, Nietzsche acknowledged its profound personal significance and societal role. He understood religion's comforting presence in the lives of the suffering and its historical contributions to moral frameworks. Though he advocated for new values, Nietzsche sought to reconcile this with the enduring comfort religion provided. His reflections offer a rare glimpse of his capacity for nuanced appreciation of traditional belief systems, even as he criticized their implications for moral development. Wagner's influence and betrayal. Richard Wagner's complex influence on Nietzsche was both inspirational and contentious. Initially an ardent admirer, Nietzsche later saw Wagner's music as representative of decadence, sparking a personal and philosophical break. This estrangement fueled Nietzsche's critique of art and its impact on culture. His disillusionment with Wagner mirrored broader themes in his work, confronting the interplay between genius and illusion. Nietzsche's writings on Wagner reveal a deeply personal narrative of admiration turned to critique. Final reflections and legacy. In his later years, Nietzsche's writing reflected an acute awareness of his legacy and the limitations of his era. He considered the broader implications of his work, aiming for a timeless philosophical impact. Despite health and personal struggles, Nietzsche persisted in articulating a vision for humanity that transcended contemporary constraints. His insights continue to challenge and inspire, marking him as a pivotal figure whose exploration of human values and morality remains profoundly relevant in philosophical discourse today. Nietzsche's financial challenges. Friedrich Nietzsche faced severe financial difficulties during his final years. Despite receiving a pension from the University of Basel, he struggled to cover his daily expenses and the costs of publishing his books. He kept to austere accommodations and simple meals to save money, but frequently expressed worry about his dwindling resources. These financial pressures weighed heavily on him, contributing to his stress and exacerbating his declining health. For Nietzsche, The struggle for financial stability was a persistent burden that threatened to derail his philosophical work and personal well-being. Creation of the Case of Wagner. One of the significant projects Nietzsche completed during this period was The Case of Wagner. This work was not only a critique of Richard Wagner's music, but also a philosophical treatise on art and culture. The creation process was marked by Nietzsche's relentless drive to expand and refine the text, as he added multiple sections, including preambles and epilogues. Although he felt some remorse for the harsh tone he used, Nietzsche ultimately believed that his criticisms were necessary and justified. His correspondence with friends reflects his complex feelings about the work, oscillating between pride and doubt. Controversial philosophical insights. Nietzsche's later works were rife with controversial philosophical insights. He challenged the very existence of metaphysical and moral worlds, proclaiming them as constructs of dreams. Instead, he posited that everything boiled down to energy in constant renewal. These radical ideas laid the groundwork for his continued assault on the conventional wisdom of his time. Nietzsche sought to shake the philosophical status quo, urging readers to question given truths and explore the raw nature of existence. These revolutionary views were both groundbreaking and contentious, as they defied long-held beliefs and confronted society's moral compass. The Twilight of the Idols. Amidst his declining health, Nietzsche penned The Twilight of the Idols, a work aimed at scandalizing and awakening the public. He used this book to sharpen his critique against cultural idols and philosophical dogmas, employing succinct aphorisms to break down complex ideas. The work was a preparatory step for his more comprehensive project, The Will to Power, which sought to reevaluate all values. Through The Twilight of the Idols, Nietzsche communicated his dissatisfaction with the prevailing social and philosophical norms, and his intent to challenge the world's fundamental beliefs was evident. Turin, a brief period of joy. Nietzsche experienced a brief period of happiness upon moving to Turin. The city's vibrant music scene and cultural atmosphere delighted him, and he found pleasure in everyday experiences, such as attending operettas and enjoying modest meals. Despite his precarious mental state, these moments of joy offered a temporary reprieve from the turmoil of his life. While in Turin, he worked diligently on his writing, feeling a sense of contentment that had eluded him in previous years. Unfortunately, this period of happiness was fleeting, as his mental health continued to deteriorate. On the brink of madness. During the late 1880s, Nietzsche's mental health began to unravel significantly. While he maintained a facade of happiness, his letters revealed a different story, often expressing foreboding about his future. He sensed his impending breakdown and chose to face it with a mixture of philosophical calm and Dionysian fervor. Nietzsche was driven to compose Ecce Homo, a deeply introspective work reflecting both on his life and his philosophical journey. Despite the ever-present signs of mental illness, including delusional thoughts and erratic behavior, he maintained his intellectual rigor until his final collapse into insanity. The emergence of Ecce Homo. In Ecce Homo, Nietzsche offered a retrospective of his life, asserting his place as a thinker of monumental insight. The work was structured as a series of self-reflective chapters, each contemplating aspects of his philosophical journey and personal life. Nietzsche used this platform to highlight his unique contributions to philosophy, although some sections revealed his impending madness. Despite its often bombastic tone, Ecce Homo is regarded as a poignant farewell from a man caught between genius and insanity, capturing both his soaring intellect and the tragic decline of his mental faculties. Nietzsche's correspondences and friendships. Despite his isolated lifestyle, Nietzsche maintained a network of correspondents who impacted his work and personal life. Letters to friends such as Peter Gast, Fräulein von Meisenburg, and Heinrich von Stein provided outlets for his philosophical explorations and personal reflections. These friendships were crucial in shaping his thoughts and providing moral support during his toughest periods. However, his often critical tone and controversial opinions strained some relationships. Nevertheless, These correspondences served as a vital lifeline, helping him to articulate and share his evolving philosophies with those who could appreciate his complex ideas. The final collapse. In January 1889, Nietzsche suffered a complete mental breakdown while in Turin. His behavior became increasingly erratic, characterized by public outbursts and delusional statements. This collapse marked the end of his productive life as a philosopher. His friends and family intervened, and he was eventually institutionalized. Letters written during this period showed a tragic loss of coherence, filled with grandiose and incoherent claims. Despite these challenging circumstances, many of Nietzsche's works gained posthumous recognition, and his ideas continued to influence philosophers and thinkers worldwide. Nietzsche's enduring legacy. Friedrich Nietzsche passed away in 1900, leaving behind a profound and controversial legacy. His later years were marked by intense creative output, despite his mental decline. His exploration of themes such as the will to power, the critique of religion, and the reevaluation of societal values continued to resonate after his death. Nietzsche's philosophy challenged readers to rethink fundamental concepts and inspired future generations to question established norms. His provocative and thought-provoking ideas ensure his place in the pantheon of great philosophers, demonstrating the enduring power of his insights and the lasting impact of his work.